weeks and go have your thing. Take a week and go and travel alone or go with a friend, go rafting, go do it on. And there is room in the relationship for that. In other relationships, that's not the case, and so it remains a fantasy by definition. The question you want to ask is to what extent is the security and the stability that you are creating in your life an anchor for you that allows you to then ride the waves? Or to what extent does it become like a straitjacket and one day you're going to bolt? And if you bolt, you do have to ask yourself, what did I do to create a life that felt so constraining that I had no other option but to leave it rather than to sometimes step out of it? And that's a pity. Because that's a responsibility we should carry. We can create our relationships today with options that we never have had. And don't make it I'm the adventurer and my partner is the bore.
I see dynamics where the guy wants to travel a bunch, or the woman wants to travel a bunch, and the guy doesn't do that. So it does end up setting up where one person is, it's like this cliche, like, oh, the old ball and chain, right? That's an old expression that a lot of men used to use probably in the 50s or something. Like, oh, she will never let me do anything. But I see it with both sides of relationships now. It's great if each person has a way to, like, the guy goes rafting, and during that same week or even a different week, depending on childcare, the woman gets to go take her culinary school thing in France or whatever. And you get this little vacation that brings you back to your young free self without, bringing home an STD or whatever it is, or some dark secret. But yeah, the other person isn't developing or doing this. You're right, it's really easy to put one person into a bucket. And I think that's dangerous as well. My mother-in-law is very perceptive with this kind of thing. She told my wife, and I don't necessarily agree with this because I think my wife is doing just fine. But my mother-in-law said, you need to be developing yourself like Jordan is. He's working out, he's learning languages, he goes places. If you don't do that, he's going to outgrow you. I don't love that my mother-in-law is scaring my wife like that, but I think she means well. And she's saying something very similar maybe to what you mean with your advice here as well.
So it's a fascinating thing that you're asking, because marriage or a committed relationship of any sort, hetero or same-sex, never had at its core personal development. That's why people make families or marry. This in itself has to be seen as a very recent thing. It's like the marriage for self-development, the one that's going to help me become the best version of myself. Beyond security, stability, family, children, etc. Now we also have, climbing Mount Olympus, from which we have a fantastic view. And those of us who climb do get that view, but not everybody gets to climb. So some couples live very much as overlapping Venn diagrams. We do everything together, we go to sleep together, we wake up together. We see the same movies, etc. Some couples live much more in a differentiated fashion. We have a strong core, we share a few things that are really important to both of us, and we have a rather large zone that is personal, be it professional, social, spiritual, any artistic, other interests. There's not one mob. When you describe the guys who talk about the ball chain, it always reminds me of the guys in the locker.
Yeah.
I have yet to hear a guy in the locker room talk about how his wife wants to jump him and he's not interested. So there is a social value to the idea that the man wants more adventure, sex, this, that, and then he's constrained. He's with somebody who is not letting him or giving it to him. This is part of an old narrative, and half the time it's lies. It's lies. It's not true. Come into a therapist's office and you'll hear the truth.
Yeah.
The story is very, very different. But whenever you have a couple where one person talks about the other one won't like you, the let word is problematic. What is this? What are we talking about here? It's like, do people give each other permission? Do people respect each other's needs? Do they say when one goes, be it for the night? And I'm not talking sex, I'm talking just go out with a friend. Do they say have a great time? Or do they say, again you have to go out? If I say have a great time, then I breathe freedom in the midst of security. I say to you, go do that thing that you love to do that is not interesting to me or that I'm not a part of, or that you prefer to do alone because it's not the same when we go together and when you go see your buddy on your own. And while I say that, when I say have a fantastic time, you have a much more stronger inclination to want to come home. Because we want to come back to the places that reflect our freedom or our needs or our individuality and vice versa. Versus the ones that make us feel that every time we do something for ourselves, we're taking something away from someone else. Provided that the other pieces that are in the realm of responsibility are attended to. So your mother-in-law, he says to her daughter, don't forget yourself. Whatever it is that he's doing, he pays attention to himself, and he takes time for himself. And he doesn't just think that the burden of caretaking is what defines him. It's not just he will look good. He will feel good. He feels that he invests in himself. And don't lose yourself in the relationship, which is a danger, primarily for women, also for men, but historically more so for women. How do I stay connected to myself when I'm connected to someone else has always been more of a women's concern. Historically, today I don't think there is necessarily a difference, but that's the root of what your mother-in-law is telling to her daughter.
Yeah, it's a clash of cultures in some ways, or at least of eras for my wife, and she's always bouncing this off me. And it's hard.
What does she answer to her mom?
You know, I don't know. I'm not there for this conversation, but I think she's probably like, yeah, okay, I know. Or I hope she tells her what she's really doing, which is a lot. It's just a lot of invisible things. You know, maybe she doesn't go a week away with her friends or something like that, traveling, but you know, she's working out. She learns all these different skills, whether it's something cooking new meals or something like that, which she actually enjoys. I know it sounds domestic or whatever, but she likes doing it.
Do you think she would appreciate you putting her on a plane or in a car for a week?
I don't think she would want to do that, no. I think she's more like, can you please just give the kids a bath so I don't tear their heads off because it's been 12 hours of screaming in my face. I think that's what she really that's what she wants. I don't know. I should ask her. Maybe that's a good idea. What do you think? Maybe I should actually ask her what she wants.
I absolutely think you can ask her what she wants, but I can also suppose that by now you probably have an idea of what she wants because she told you. So it could be to say, I'm handling things today. You have a day off. You leave with the little ones and leave her to be alone in the house. Because what happens when you're in a very that situation is that the only time you can be on your own is when you are away from home. And sometimes the biggest pleasure is to have the home empty and just to yourself and for more than a half an hour.
Yeah.
So you want to do her good?
That's a good idea.
Go ahead.
Yeah, like turn on Netflix. I don't even. It's been so long since she's watched it. She probably doesn't even know the remote works anymore. We gotta look up the instructions.
So you have an assignment right there.
A lot of times people write in for advice and they'll ask things like, I've got a crush on somebody at work, or I have butterflies for them like I haven't had from my current partner in a long time, or forever. Is this our imagination playing tricks on us? Is it the grass is greener on the other side of the fence? You already started to answer the other third part of this, which doesn't reflect something about our current relationship, which it may not. Is this a trick that our mind plays?
No, it's absolutely not a trick of the mind. The mind is not playing a trick on you when you experience that. The first question,
this goes back to the question of the affairs that you asked me. I have more than one set of people who tell me, my partner doesn't do this to me anymore, or I don't feel those feelings anymore. I said, but you're not the same person coming home than the one who is going to see the other person. If that person came home, maybe be more interested in you as well. You know, it's so easy to always think it's the other person who lacks, who's boring, who doesn't do anything, who is not inspiring, etc. And attribution error.
Yes.
If we are not available, then we just say it's because I was really busy and I just didn't have much time to pay attention. But if our partner doesn't pay attention, then it's because they don't have the right energy and they're not in the swing of things. And their characterological and ours is circumstantial. It's very easy to do this. So when you have butterflies someone else, you just say first and foremost, wow, it's a nice thing that I can still feel this.
I haven't felt this in a long time. Now, how come? Where have I been? Or where have we been? What are we doing to maintain a little bit of intensity or energy or erotic spark between the two of us? And I'm not talking sexual spark, I'm talking about aliveness, vibrancy, vitality, playfulness, curiosity. Do I have the same kind of curiosity and I come home with a question to my partner of something that I want to know about them? I show interest, or do I sit on the couch and I do this with my phone while I'm watching TV and I make them feel that whatever they tell me, it's not worth it for me to even lift my head? This is what's going on in a lot of people's homes. You spend the day at your screen, you come home, you take more time at another screen with your phone in hand while you're sitting next to somebody, and you're surprised that there is nothing happening and no energy and no butterflies. If people treated their partner like they treat their clients, or their best friends, or these people that they suddenly are meeting, there would be a different energy in the house. It's not just that it leaves because of time and, couples who have an erotic spark, they are deliberate, they're attentive, they make an effort, they create it, they don't just slap on the couch and with the head down without an interesting conversation about anything except, did you do this and did you do that?
I see this a lot, especially with parents that have little kids. People are asking me, do you have this? Is this something that you're dealing with? Because I think little kids, it's really easy to get distracted by, work or family. I like the idea of harnessing that feeling in some way that doesn't get us into trouble. I guess before, you can look at this as sort of like an indicator that something is definitely wrong with your relationship, or you can look at it as an indicator that you need to change something about your own behavior inside the relationship. I think that's probably the best way to look at it. It's a good sort of check engine light for your relationship, I suppose.
Yes. I mean, imagine that you say, something is really wrong because my partner is always complaining. The next question then comes, and what do you do then? I mean, nobody started out complaining. They probably asked you nicely at first. Then they started to ask you more insistently. Then, when you have a nag, always ask yourself, what am I doing to raise the volume of the nag? Rather than just, I have a nag. When people feel heard, they don't nag. When people feel attended to respond to, they don't have to see 100 times the same question. The difference between there's something really wrong in my relationship and what am I doing that contributes to that, they are interconnected questions.
I think essentially a lot of times our partner's behavior is a reflection of ourselves.
It's not a reflection.
It's not a reflection.
You're involved in it. It's like relationships are a figure eight. I ask you, you don't answer, so now I ask you louder, but now you don't answer again, so then I ask you. It's like one person is reinforcing the very behavior in the other that they actually don't want. If you want the other person to stop talking, then say something. But if you're going to keep quiet until you explode, for example, I mean, I'm just thinking about the couples I've seen yesterday and today. But the point is, lots of couples' life, when things begin to go a little bit awry, is often putting the responsibility on the other person without paying attention enough to what can I do to make this better? Or in what way am I contributing to my partner feeling the way they do? If I really care, that should be a normal question rather than stop, busting my chops. And I'm a couples therapist.
Yeah.
People come to me like a drop-off center.
What do you mean?
Meaning, here's my partner.
Oh, here's find out what's wrong with him.
I'll tell you. I'll tell you. And you fix it, and I'll help you.
Yeah.
So you change a relationship. You start by saying, what's the one thing I can control? So yes, you're right. I've experienced butterflies somewhere. No, it doesn't have to become the beginning of a downfall. And I'm thinking to myself, I want this in my life. I'm missing this. So can I have a conversation with my partner where I say that? Are you missing this too? What's happened to us? Do you feel like we've just gone completely flatlined here? Do you miss something? Does it matter to you? It matters to me. What could we do? Because you don't have to solve it alone, but you basically say, I want this butterfly, so I want a certain kind of energy or intensity or engagement. I just don't want to feel like my passion is at work And the best of me goes to work, and the leftovers come home. But that's part of my responsibility too.
Why do you think we as a society have such completely different ideas about why men and women cheat? I think the stereotype is that men cheat for variety and novelty, and women cheat because their emotional needs are not being met. And it doesn't seem like that's accurate given what we've discussed today.
Monogamy has never been an equal opportunity or fidelity. I mean, men have predictably had a license to cheat throughout history. And all kinds of evolutionary theories came to justify that. They have different hormones, which they do. They are more inclined, etc., etc. But basically, monogamy has been an imposition on women forever, all over the world, primarily in order for him to know to whom do the children belong and who will get the cows when I die. It's about patrimony and lineage. It had very little to do with love. It had nothing to do with love. It was an economic arrangement in order to know provenance, which is the one thing that men have never been able to ascertain until very recently with DNA tests was provenance. Is this my kid? Whereas he can go everywhere and nobody knows. But if he goes somewhere, something may happen. So, why do we think that men want sex and women want love? Because every gender gets license given by society about what is supposed to be important for them. And it is acceptable for men to say they want sex, but it is not acceptable for men to say they want love, or connection, or intimacy, or tenderness, which are all forbidden emotions that men often access through sex. And it is not okay for women to say they want sex, but it is okay for women to say they want love. So every gender has been given a license for what are the needs that are acceptable and what are the needs that are not. And from that place, we will say men cheat for sex, women cheat because they're lonely. No, it's not necessarily the case. And it also is different in many different cultural contexts. But basically, give the woman a car. Give her a place where she can be autonomous. And the stats are very clear that the differences are not nearly as innate as we think. The differences have been primarily cultural and biological.
I'd love to discuss conflict. I know that's some of the material you're working on most recently, and I've heard you say, maybe even on this show, but certainly elsewhere, ask, don't complain when it comes to your partner. Tell me more about that.
So, two questions, right? Why am I interested in conflict? And then how can people diffuse conflict? It's complain or criticize, right? I mean, John Gottman often says, that behind a criticism, there is a veiled way. When I say you don't do something, there is actually something that I want. Now I can continue and talk about how you don't do, and you don't pick up, and you don't clean, and you don't attend, and you don't, or I can say it really matters to me that. But if I put myself out there and I say what I want, what I need, what I care about, and you don't respond, then I have to deal with the rejection. If I go at you and I criticize you, I experience myself as less vulnerable. This is the notion about ask for what you want rather than criticize or complain for the thing you don't get. It's okay to have issues. Make them public. That's first. Now, why conflict? Because I think that we're becoming a conflict-avoidant society. We are basically experiencing and watching around us massive social atrophy, virtualizing our lives, basically spending entire days at home. You don't have to go out to work, to exercise, to eat, to see movies, nothing. So where are you going to deal with the friction and the close proximity with other people, where you learn to deal with difference and disagreements? And so we polarize. We avoid conflict and we polarize. And that's the context in which I said I need a good 1 hour, very deliberate, specific, not generic talk about argument, fighting, difference, disagreement, conflict. The stuff that exists in every relationship and that people are more and more avoiding. People these days tell you, I talk to this person every day, but it's all on text. They never actually see the person. They never see the effect of what they're doing or saying on the face of the other person. I'm talking to you now and I'm watching every response of yours to what I say. I'm not just talking to in the weight kind of thing. So this conflicting is becoming extremely important on a societal level and on a relational level. Romantic, friends, work, all of it.
You're listening to the Jordan Harbinger Show with our guest, Esther Perel. We'll be right back. This episode is sponsored in part by BetterHelp. You ever get a feeling that you're aware of what's good for you, yet there's a block? That's where therapy can be a game changer. It's like getting a roadmap to understanding those blocks, those patterns. It's not about finding fault, but about understanding what's holding you back, so you can work with your brain, not against it. I've done therapy before many times. It's been transformative. In fact, it's not just helpful during deep traumas or big life crises. It's helped me set boundaries, learn coping skills, whether it's navigating daily stress or the bigger challenges. Therapy can be a really solid ally. And if you're even slightly considering therapy, I would say give BetterHelp a shot. The entire platform is online. It's super convenient. Fill out a short questionnaire. They'll match you with a licensed therapist. And if you don't like them, switch anytime. No extra cost.
Make your brain your friend with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/Jordan to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp.com/Jordan.
This episode is also sponsored by Nissan. These days, too many people have to settle for the next best thing, especially when it comes to choosing a car. But at Nissan, there's a vehicle type for everyone, for every driver who wants more. Whether you want more adventure, more electric, more action, more gusto, more turbocharged excitement, Nissan is here to make sure you get it. Because Nissan is all about giving people a whole spectrum of thrills to choose from with a diverse lineup of vehicles. From sports cars to sedans to EVs, pickups, and crossovers, with Nissan's diverse lineup, anyone can find something to help them reach their more. In my life, I'm always looking for more genuine conversations that challenge my perspective and enrich my understanding. It's these deep, long-form conversations and often unexpected discussions that not only fuel the content that I produce here on the show, but also shape my personal growth journey / life. And that's probably more than you asked for, but hey, Nissan wants to help people find their more freedom, more adventure, or even just more fun. So thanks again to Nissan for sponsoring this episode of the Jordan Harbinger Show, and for the reminder to find your more. Learn more at NissanUSA.com. If you're wondering how I manage to book all these great authors, thinkers, and creators every single week, it is because of my network. And I'm teaching you how to build your network for free. I know network is a gross word. You don't like it. I don't like it either. It's really the circle of people that know, like, and trust you. The liking part is kind of optional. But this course is about improving your relationship-building skills and inspiring other people to want to develop a relationship with you in a way that is easy, not cringy, very down-to-earth, not awkward, and not going to make you or the other person feel gross. It's just practical exercises that will make you a better connector, a better colleague, a better friend, a better peer. And it only takes a few minutes a day. I scale it way down. I'm talking like 5 minutes a day or less. And many of the guests on the show subscribe and contribute to the course. So come join us. You'll be in smart company where you belong. Once again, that's jordanharbinger.com/course. Now, back to Esther Perel. I guess this is maybe not the right question, but I'm going to ask it anyway. How do couples argue well? Are there certain rules or vocabulary changes, perhaps? Because a long time ago, I told my wife, or my wife and I agreed, I should say, that we needed to ditch the you always or you never. You know, people start a lot of sentences with that when they're fighting or arguing, because my lawyer mind just goes to the one time I did or did not do that thing, instead of hearing what she actually needs me and wants me to hear. I'm like, well, actually, yesterday I did do that. She's like, fine, you almost never. And then I'm like, well, I'm right, because I found a hole in your argument, which is, not constructive at all.
But it's not just your lawyer's mind. Okay. Anybody would react this way because you've just been dumped a truth about you that you don't relate to.
Yeah.
So the always never, first and the you and the accusation and the kind of categorical statement, which is meant to express an impression, an experience, a subjective experience, but is presented as an objective fact and truth. Pseudo-factual talk, that's a good one on the list of the 7-8 things you should not do if you want to fight better. So I'm going to give you, since you started with the ones you don't want to do, a list of the ones that you don't want to do, and if you avoid those, you know that you're fighting better.
Okay.
Yeah? So one of them is this, the categorical absolute character statements that present as truth when they are basically meant to talk about an experience. Number two, kitchen sinking. Yesterday I saw a person, and the minute they were having a conversation about something, he brought in 5 years of stuff. So, put all the piling up, all the dirty dishes in the sink, you can't wash any. Talk about the thing you're talking about and stay focused on that. And don't start bringing in everything else. And when you've lost here, you bring in the next thing. That's another one. Retaliation. Oh, you hurt me? Let me show you. I'm going to hurt you more. That's another big one. Details. It wasn't Thursday. It was Wednesday. It makes a huge difference in the conversation that we are having. Being right rather than wise. I have a one-up on you, and I disqualify everything you say, and I use it. And I do, I weaponize your vulnerability at every turn. Whatever you just said, I'm going to just squeeze you with it. I mean, the repertoire of ways that people can have destructive fights is very, very imaginative. Confirmation bias. I only look for evidence that reinforces my belief. I think you don't care, and all I do is scan for every time you haven't cared. When in fact, we know that in distressed relationships, there's a lot of good that people no longer see. Because they only emphasize, they're looking for the one thing that's going to strengthen their point of view. That's another cognitive distortion that goes with bad fighting. So what do you do to fight better? The opposite of all of that. Look, I'm really pissed. This really upsets me. You know how much this matters to me. You stay to the point. You disagree vehemently. You can be vociferous about it, but you don't get into contempt. You don't start just blaming. You accept sometimes when the other person says, yes, but when you did this, that really was, and you don't twist it around. You just own it, you take responsibility, and you just say, yes, that's true. No, I have people, they listen to a list of what the other one is saying, and then they pick the one thing they can disagree with. No, acknowledge. Did you not show up? Did you forget? Just say, I forgot. Own it. Don't be ashamed about it. Be responsible about it. That in itself shortens the distance. Yes, you are right. I could have done this better. I should have checked.
You're so right, though, how we generate stories around our partners, friends, family, for that matter, everybody in our lives, right? And we only look for information that confirms that story. She's always late, or she forgets to put the cap back on the toothpaste, whatever it is, could be big or small. And then you see when they do that, but you don't recognize the other 50 times when they don't do that because of confirmation bias. And then your pet peeves start to grow.
Or when they do other things.
Yeah, sure.
Every time you bitch about the thing that you don't want to do, then just think about all the stuff you don't have to think about. Be gracious. Nuclear family life is a bitch, basically. It's really a stressful situation on people, especially if they're on top of it, young kids, pets, and in-laws, and older parents, and all the other responsibilities of life. We were not conceived to live like this. So don't take it out on your partner. You may want to criticize the thing itself, but fighting well is fighting in a way that doesn't make it feel like you have nothing to lose when you have everything to lose. Fighting well is when you say, if I say this now, what will this do to my relationship? Because I could be right, but I will be right and alone. Or I could be right, but I may not be married to you. I may want to be wise, and it doesn't matter if I'm right, because it's not going to come across. So protect the relationship is probably one of the big things about how go tell a friend who is going to agree with you. It's okay. But don't come back home and say, my friends all agree with me.
I told everybody about all of our personal problems, and you're the one that's wrong. There's no universe in which that is a good idea. I will say anything my wife does, anything Jen does to annoy me, I am positive that I'm doing something much worse to annoy her, and she just doesn't harass me about it, or she's given up on me fixing some of those things and giving me a lot of grace. So I do try to remember any little thing where I'm like, gosh, she took my washcloth off again, and I'm like, well, she's probably washing it, and if I mention this, she's going to get annoyed because she's going to be like, yes, I did your laundry again. You're welcome. And then I realize that I, am damn lucky. I'm damn lucky someone's taken that washcloth, or I'd be washing myself with a 3-month-old washcloth that never gets cleaned.
And do you say that to her?
I never bring up any of this, actually. I just avoid talking about it at all because I feel like I don't need to bring up that I don't have a washcloth.
No, but you ever say thank you?
No, I should say thank you. I don't say thank you. No, I should definitely do that. I'm going to put a note right now to do that.
You know what's one of the best pieces of advice I ever came up with? But I didn't know it. It's people who told it to me afterwards. It was a situation where a person comes home late, and they basically apologize, and they think they're being nice because they apologize for whatever, missed the game, missed the dinner, didn't show up, etc. And I said, don't apologize. Because if you apologize, what you're really saying is, whatever I did was more important than you. So you're still all important. It's all grandiose. But if you come home and you say, thank you, I couldn't have stayed without you.
Yeah, that's much better. Oh, I like that. Everybody rewind that and then listen to that again.
Then I'm here at home thinking I'm part of something, and not I'm mashed potatoes and there is a delicious food somewhere else. the other meeting that is more important than me. I've become a part of it, and we are interdependent. And I know that you rely on me, and you acknowledge that, yes, you could not have stayed another 2 hours if I hadn't been manning the fort here. It changes the entire power dynamic. It changes the interdependence. It changes the feeling used and not appreciated. All of it. It actually is one of the most important defenders against conflict.
Yeah, that is brilliant. I mean it when I say people hit that back 15 or 30 seconds button on your podcast player and listen to that again. I think that might be one of the most important and easily most practical things that people can use as a result of this. Because I know you're not a person where I can say, give me 3 top tips for not pissing off your spouse. I mean, but that's a really good practical thing that people can think that you can do. And I think it could change a relationship for the better if you just frame things like that. Because it does frame things as, this is my partner cooperating with me, tag teaming, whatever this life is, and I couldn't do it without them, so thank you for that. Versus, hey, I'm sorry that you had to sit around for 2 hours while I missed everything, and you did it all.
Correct. You got it. Which is why you thank Jen for doing the laundry.
I literally made a recurring task on my computer to do that every day until it becomes a habit that I don't have to remember by looking at my task list again. I also feel like the content of a lot of arguments, not necessarily my, actually, I'm sure everybody that I see and hear about, the content of the argument is never the thing that they're really fighting about. Like, it's not about the kids, it's not about whatever swimming lessons, it's about feeling like the person is not acknowledged or appreciated, to your earlier point, or vice versa. It's still strange because even though I feel like I know this consciously, my wife and I will start, I say fighting, but I mean whatever lighter.
Arguing.
Something like that in the car, and it's like, fine, cancel the swimming lessons then, and then it's like an awkward car ride home, and it's like, neither of us give a crap about the swimming lessons. It's not about the swimming lessons. It's hard to zone in on the thing that the fight is actually about, maybe because that thing is deeper and less comfortable than the schedule or the swimming lessons or the teacher thing.
Yep.
What's going on here?
What's going on is this. There is what people fight about, and then there is what people fight for. So you fight about swimming lesson, but what you fight for is power and control. That's the hidden agendas of most fights. Is it an issue of power and control? Whose decision matters more? Who has priority? Is it about care and closeness? Can I trust you? Do you have my back? Can I rely on you? And respect and recognition. Do you value me? Do I matter? So sometimes in this instance, you're in the car, say, okay, Cancer, what is this for you? What are you fighting for? What's underneath? And yesterday I had a person, and it was about care and closeness. Can I trust you? Will you be there? And then I said, and why is that the piece for you that is so important? And then you go and layer further, which you do in therapy, but you also can do sometimes in a conversation, like, because people get to know each other. You know Jen, so you find out, you know her mom, you know her context, you have a sense, right? So in this instance, she tells me, grew up pretty much with herself, took care of the younger siblings, mother worked alone outside of the house, did the laundry, did the cooking before mom came home, was rather on her own, neglected by the needs of the family, not that there was an intent to that. So when he doesn't show up, it's not just he doesn't show up because she can't rely on him. I've always been alone. I've never had anyone I could rely on. People don't come true for me in this way. My whole life will be like this. And I thought when I married this guy, when I have a partner, that I will have the support that my mother couldn't give me. That's what I am fighting. And once you get to that level, it evokes empathy in the other person too. Because now you know it's freaking swimming lessons I like. And you kind of say, I am here for you. I mean, it's not because I don't want to go pick up the kids at the pool that I'm not here for you. So it's not like I'm going to do everything you ask me. But I have a deeper understanding for why this issue is one of our perennial ones. 20 years later, we can still have the same argument in a different form. And that's the what's underneath. It's what you're fighting for. I'm fighting not to feel alone, not to feel like this is the truth of my life. With you, I was hoping that I wouldn't live this truth again. Everybody has those. It's 3 things. Power and control, care and closeness, respect and recognition.
Yeah. I hear in your show and in your therapy sessions, you say things like, so what I'm hearing is, and then you kind of reframe it in different words. I've heard you say that we should something like that. Is that how you uncover those in that conversation?
I mean, you're in the car. You can just at some point say, "Look, we know it's not the swimming lesson. I want to actually understand." I mean, otherwise we're just going to continue have the same old. And sometimes people know and sometimes they don't. She didn't know yesterday. We went and traveled a little bit until we hit the spot. But it's okay to say, what is it? You know, and then sometimes people say, it's because I feel sometimes that many times it's an easy one. If I have to ask you 5 times, you obviously don't care or don't hear what I'm telling you. As if you're doing this on purpose, you know? When sometimes people do, and sometimes they don't. And so it's stepping outside of the tiny frame and just saying, and then what's it for me? This is the important piece here. It doesn't really matter so much what the answer is. It's the fact that the question says, I'm caring and I'm curious. Rather than I don't give up. You know, it's like I'm just here to make my point. Rather than I actually feel that we matter, and I'm not going to say stuff that just makes it feel like, no, I don't at all. This is the level. You don't go to therapy in your relationship, but you just ask a question that says, what are we doing? Why do you think this thing is every Friday we have the same argument?
I noticed on the show you almost never recommend people. I don't even know if I've heard you ever do this. Recommend that people break up or end their relationship. And I wonder under what circumstances. How do we know if something is actually over?
So actually there are more than one episode where I tell people this is over. Or I said you better be friends than partners because as partners you suck. Here's the thing, I am often cautious on the podcast because it's one-time episodes. It's a one-time session, and I don't necessarily have that certainty in one time. In my practice, it's different. I've worked with you over time, and I've seen where it goes, and I sometimes really have to say, look, your partner is gone. I know you're fighting to maintain this, but they're gone, and you need to hear that. Or, listen people, there is nothing to work with. It's death upon arrival. Each of you just comes here to basically say you've done a few sessions so that you can go to the lawyer and then screw the other person. No, I'm not participating in this. Or, look, you asked your partner to do a bunch of things and they've done all of this, you've done what? I don't think they deserve you. So I actually have said a lot of things that are all about this without having to say I think you should leave. On occasion, but why don't I say it just flippantly? Because I don't have to live with the consequences. Only the person who makes that decision has to live with the consequences, and they have to own it. And I think a therapist can be very powerful, and I don't want to be the one to carry your decision. You need to carry it. So I ask, are you asking me what you should do? Or are you asking me because you've already made your decision? And if you made your decision, I'll support you.
Yeah, I think probably a lot of people do go to therapy to get cover for something they've already decided to do or not to do. And that's a waste of your time, first of all, I would imagine.
Basically, I know when I'm working towards something and I know when people are basically posturing. Or when one person has one foot out the door, or when one person is dropping off the other one because they're on their way out. There's a lot of, why are you here? What are you here to do? In the podcast, because it's one session, I do not feel that I can take that liberty. I'm not a therapist. I'm a podcast host that is doing therapeutic conversations. And at that point, only once or twice did I really say to people, yeah.
So the people on the podcast. And to be clear, you really are a therapist, but when you're talking about when you're doing the podcast, you're a podcast host who's doing therapy. Those people have not had a bunch of sessions with you before.
They have never been my patients. No, there are 6,000 applicants to the new season who want to be on the podcast. They are not patients and they will never be patients. I keep these things two very separate.
That makes sense. Okay.
They don't apply with me, they apply with the producers. I show up, they have been chosen, and then we meet and it is in my office and it feels like it's a real situation, but that's it. I will see them once and nobody else has ever seen them. The other people on the podcast, by the way, I call them spontaneously. They send us voice questions, and then I surprise them with a phone call all over the world.
Oh, wow.
And we do the sessions like that. So there's different formats now on Where Should We Begin.
Yeah.
But all of them exploring dynamics of relationships.
You do some pretty interesting stuff on the show. I think I heard this. There was a particularly intense conflict, and you made people lay on the floor. What was that all about? That was interesting, changing their physiology like that.
Have you ever tried to have an argument lying flat?
Yeah, I can't
Much
imagine.
harder.
It's probably
No, we are mammals. We are mammals. We fight by charging. We stand upright, we lift our shoulders, we lower our neck, we protect ourselves, and then we attack or defend. That you can't do when you lie flat. So I just want to begin having a fight, the usual same old. And I said, let's try to do this on the floor. And it indeed instantly changed the physiology, which then made them suddenly completely change affect. The physicality led into the emotionality, and it's an extremely effective intervention. And it's something you can do at home very easily if you have a tiny bit of humor.
Yeah. Well, one, add humor, because it seems like a really good way to de-escalate things, as long as you don't use humor to avoid the actual issue, which is tempting sometimes. But also, I'm sure there's some science in there, like it kills the sympathetic nervous system or whatever, and is also quite silly trying to have a shouting match while you're staring at the ceiling fan.
I think that humor is underrated. It's such an important sound in relationships. And I do think sometimes it's meant to avoid, and why not? Sometimes you should avoid going into the same tunnel one more time. No, if you have one person in the relationship who can diffuse it and make everyone laugh, it's not sarcasm, it's not, but it's really saying, oh, seriously, we're going to do this again? That it is a gift to the relationship. Humor brings perspective, humor brings lightness and levity, humor takes you out of your goddamn seriousness of, and I can't value humor and playfulness enough. When people talk about fighting better, they think it's about fighting better. It's actually about relating better. And humor in a relationship is such a recognition of the difference of the other two. It's a way of accepting who you're with.
I love the idea of being able to have healthy conflict. I know that's probably a buzzword in every sort of relationship circle, healthy conflict, but you just see these little cuts that people have in their relationship turn into these festering wounds over years and years if you can't do this right. And I know I'll link to your upcoming course that I think will be out by the time this episode comes out on conflict, so that people can really dig into this, because there's going to be a lot more like the things we discussed in that course, I assume, yeah?
Yes, plenty. Only.
Good. Chock full. Good. That's what I like to see. I'd like to talk a little bit about how you grew up, because I know you grew up around Holocaust survivors. Was it true your parents were the only survivors from each of their families? Is that right?
Yep. One came from a family of 9, one came from a family of 7. They both lost everybody and spent each 4 and 5 years in concentration camps.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
I grew up in trauma.
Yeah. I guess you have to be a refugee family.
Yes. My parents were refugees from Poland who came to Belgium. And then they were 5 years illegal refugees in Belgium. And only 5 years later did they become legalized. And then our first passport were UN stateless passport.
Oh, wow. I didn't even know they had those. I'd never heard of that. It makes perfect sense for a conflict like that. Are you Jewish, or were your parents just Polish that were pushed out of Poland because the Nazis were horrible to everyone?
No. They were not gay, not gypsy or Roma, and they were Jewish.
Okay.
So those were the 3 main groups that were annihilated.
I think even non-Jewish Poles were also put in camps, were they not?
Yeah.
Did y'all have the couches covered in plastic? That's what the immigrant families back in Michigan where I grew up always had. Plastic on everything. Couch from 1965 looked like it's new, except for it has a butt print in it that goes all the way down.
Beautifully descriptive.
So this is very interesting, this couch metaphor, because I've often used it to describe what I saw as a distinction in the community of Holocaust survivors that I grew up in. But it's a distinction that I've used for all couples. Among survivors, there were those who did not die and those who came back to life. That's what I see in relationships. Relationships that are not dead, but they're just surviving, and relationships that are living and thriving. It's the same metaphor. And the ones that survived, that didn't die, were the ones who had covered couches and lowered shades and the world was a dangerous place, and you didn't really take many chances, and you avoided risk, and you didn't trust anybody. And the ones on the other end of this were often what I call the people who understood the erotic as an antidote to death. They understood vibrancy and aliveness and vitality as a way to just embrace life. They didn't survive for nothing. And those people didn't have any plastic on their couches.
The plastic on the couch, it never really made a ton of sense to me, right? It's like you gotta use the thing and really enjoy it. But you're right, the plastic on the couches, you've got to protect this thing. It eventually, you don't end up with a new couch that you take the plastic off of. You end up with an old couch that's still worn and used in a different way. It just didn't fully enjoy because of that stupid plastic thing on it that when you lay down just made you feel sweaty and icky.
The key word is the enjoy. When you are in survival mode, when you are vigilant, when you see danger everywhere, when you don't think of the plastic, you don't allow for joy and pleasure. That's the piece. It's like, because when you are experiencing joy or enjoyment or pleasure, you're not vigilant. You can't be anxious and experience pleasure at the same time. Whereas when you are in the side that embraces the danger of life as a fact of life, but you are in the erotic experience of it, you're going to live life at its fullest, then you experience pleasure. You can't be watchful and experience pleasure at the same time. So that's the essence of the word when you say the couch is an old couch that you're never going to enjoy. The lack of enjoyment is the key word here.
This is the Jordan Harbinger Show with our guest, Esther Perel. We'll be right back. This episode is brought to you in part by U.S. Bank. Seems like there's a credit card for everything these days, right? Food cards for travel, cards for rare stamp collecting. For me, I don't know what I'm going to be spending money on from one minute to the next, but you know it, U.S. Bank has a card for people like me. Check out the U.S. Bank Cash Plus Visa Signature Card. With this card, you get up to 5% cash back on 2 categories that you choose every quarter. The great thing is the earning doesn't stop there. Even after you choose your first 2 earning categories, you also earn 2% back on one everyday category you choose each quarter, like gas stations and EV charging stations, or grocery stores or restaurants, and you still earn 1% on everything else. Apply today at usbank.com/cash+card. All that already sounds good, but this card just keeps earning with a $200 rewards bonus after spending $1,000 in eligible purchases within the first 120 days of account opening. If you like choosing how your card earns, apply at usbank.com/cash+card. Limited time offer. The credit and issue of this card is US Bank National Association pursuant to a license from Visa USA Inc. Some restrictions may apply. This episode is also sponsored by Simply Safe. Can you believe it's October already? It feels like just yesterday we were enjoying some slip and slides in the baking July sun, and now we're just one pumpkin spice latte away from the holiday hustle. Before you drown yourself in wrapping paper and carolers, consider locking down your home with Simply Safe. They're practically giving it away with 40% off. Simply Safe has been our sponsor for a long time, and 40% is one of the biggest discounts that I've heard them offer. Fun story, once we were away from home, Simply Safe alerted me about activity at my front door. Turned out just a possum. But I guess I also appreciate knowing when the possum drops by. Speaking of drop-bys, super handy to check in on when the kids come home, make sure your online shopping sprees have landed safely on your doorstep. U.S. News and World Report named Simply Safe the best home security system of 2023. So if you're still hemming and hawing, give it a 60-day risk-free trial, money-back guarantee type thing. If you don't like it, send it back. This holiday, let's toast to less stress and more safety with Simply Safe.
For a limited time, save 40% on any new system with a Fast Protect plan. Visit simplysafe.com/Jordan. There's no safe like Simply Safe.
If you like this episode of the show, and why wouldn't you, I invite you to do what other smart and considerate listeners do, which is take a moment and support our amazing sponsors. All of the deals, discounts, and ways to support the show are at jordanharbinger.com/deals. You can also search for any sponsor using our AI chatbot on the website as well over at jordanharbinger.com/AI. Thank you so much for supporting those who support the show. Now for the rest of my conversation with Esther Perel. It sounds like you had a lot of cultures blending together around you. It explains probably why you speak 9 languages. And it sounds like a lot of different foods from day to day, languages from day to day, types of people in the house from one day to the next. I would guess you became pretty adept at not only flipping languages, but flipping cultures or perceptions or the lens that you look at through the world, right? Because if you're speaking German, you have that German lens on the world. And then if you speak French the next day or the next hour, it's probably a very different lens on that conversation or that social interaction or just on everything that's around you in that moment.
I love when I tour in Europe to be giving a talk in Flemish or Dutch, and then a talk in German, and then a talk in Spanish, and then a talk in French, and then a talk in Hebrew. All within 3 weeks. I love it. I think it's like different parts of me wake up. The conversation is different. It's traveling at multiple levels. It's not just traveling in other countries. So yes, languages are very important to me. I work in 7 of them, and it is a gate to the world. And I am a traveler by nature in the way I, not just because I travel, because I like to enter very different worlds of my own.
Were you conscious about learning all those languages? Was it kind of like, I want to know what everyone is saying, or was it just exposure to all these languages over time and you learned them through osmosis?
So we spoke 5 at home.
Wow.
My father was illiterate, by the way. He could not write, and he kind of taught himself to read newspapers. But it's not that there was education. I'm the first to went to college. But Flemish and French are the 2 main languages in Belgium. My parents spoke Polish, Yiddish, and German with each other. So those were floating around. I am schooled in Flemish. I know I have a French accent, but I'm actually from the Flemish part of Belgium, schooled in Flemish. Then I traveled to Italy. Then I got involved with South American music. Then I was in a Brazilian band. Stuff like that. You learn in school, you learn traveling, you learn on the pillow, and you learn at home.
Did you ever ask your parents why they survived when other people in their family didn't? Did that sort of define? I know a lot of survivors, they have guilt around that. They have a story around that.
I was very blessed that I had parents who they didn't have survival guilt. They wanted to live, they fought to live their life. Like most survivors, they will tell you that the first reason they were alive is because of luck. Just they didn't get round up, they didn't fall into the 3 hours of the day, or things like that, you know, or that day didn't freeze minus 20, you know, so that they kept their feet and stuff like that, and they could continue work. But after that, I think both of them were always hoping that they would be reunited with family at some point. That somebody was waiting for them somewhere. And they know my whole family, my mother's side went to Auschwitz, my father's family went to Treblinka, and so that was very clear to them. But I think they were the youngest in their family. Grew up in a tiny village with a horse and a carriage, and it was freezing weather, and he had concrete bags on his back, and he said, you know, we were more prepared than the Jews from Paris and from Greece. We were used to the cold and to the hard life. And we had a wish to live. We were fighting to stay human and to stay alive.
Does growing up in an environment like that contribute to maybe a sense of impermanence or instability at all? I mean, refugees, different cultures, or because I guess that could go either way, right? It could be like, wow, look at this mix of everything and we're at the center of it, what a blessing. Or it could be, wow, I don't know who I am or where we're from or anything. It's just all a big jumble.
No, we were very rooted. I mean, my mom's statement was always, never forget who you are. Because then you know why you're trying, who you want to be and why you're fighting for, etc. But no, I think for me personally, I would say the awareness that at any moment everything can disappear is something that I live very intensely. It's a constant sense of awareness and sometimes dread that comes from their story. You know, you wake up one day and your whole life is gone. That is very present to me. At the same time, I live as if it's not going to happen. I take risks, I do things. So it's a combination of two things. You know that there is danger, but you live as if you're fearless.
That's very Jewish, I think, in many ways, or at least Jewish as it seems from my family's culture and the other Jews that I know. It's very, behold, something bad might happen at any time is very much a... Is that trauma, or is that just Jewish?
That's collective trauma.
Yeah, okay.
No, I don't think it's necessarily Jewish, or that would be this way. It's Jewish because it's historically so, because it is part of the collective consciousness of Jews. This is the history. It has repeated itself all along. So that awareness of the impermanence of things, we don't have buildings, we have books. For that very reason. No cathedral. There's books. The stuff you can carry with you because you're about to be in exile once again. And the Jews are not the only people in exile. There's plenty of other people in exile too. But if you ask specifically about me, yes, that notion of impermanence, of the world is at any moment can switch in front of you. Don't take anything for granted. Is very present. And in a good way too. That allows you to thank people so that you don't have to think later. Oof, I wish I had thanked them more.
Did the wide exposure you got as a child lead to this deep understanding of human nature and empathy of the kind that you seem to bring into your therapy sessions in the show? Or is that something you developed professionally later on?
No, I think I grew up with it. I had a father specifically who, while he was illiterate, was an extreme humanist. He saved 60 kids on his own. He did a lot of good things for people. And he was probably one of the least judgmental people. And he really taught me not to be quick to judge and not to just jump on the high horse and not to accuse without knowing. And he, in a gentle way, he didn't make a speech about it. I just saw it, you know. He always had a way of saying, well, you don't know. You know, you don't know what may have happened to them before, or you don't know what happened in the morning, or just chill, you know, don't judge. And I think having been judged and having been so discriminated and so persecuted, you can come out to both sides. You can come out the person who persecutes others and identifies with the aggressor and does to the others what was done to you, or you can come out with a level of kindness toward people that was really, he was adored for those things. And I really picked that up. I think one of the things people will often say about the work is it's firm, it's direct, but it's not judgmental.
How did he save the kids?
He created the black market in the camp. And he had a trafficking of potatoes.
Potato trafficker. My goodness,
yes.
That's not something you hear every day.
No, you didn't get much chance to eat there. You know? So he created the whole black market and was able to feed people. And, you know, one potato more meant another day of life. Didn't make a big deal out of it. Somebody else said to me, I'm one of those 60 kids.
Wow. That must have been quite a moment when you found out that your dad saved not only one person, but 60 people.
Yeah.
In a camp where he was fighting for his own life and could easily have justified just not caring about anybody else.
But you know, it's attached to a story. Because when I went to the camps with him one day, he described how he fell in love with this woman in the camp. And he had decided, I'm going to help her. She had arrived late, you know, it was 44. But then he got caught sending her notes. Now, I never approached me to ask him who wrote for you. Because you can't write. In what language did you communicate with this woman? How did that happen? But anyway, I took the story. And he got caught, and then they took him out of the kitchens and back to the factories. And he said, I would have survived 10 days. That didn't last there. But the SS came to him, the German, and said, I eat better when you're in the kitchen. And he put him back in the kitchens.
Wow.
So he didn't just save the kids. He also fed the...
Gosh, good thing you knew how to cook well. That's, I mean, it literally
no cooking. My father didn't know to make an egg. No, he just smuggled potatoes.
Wow, so even the SS was starving at this point, I guess, in the war.
Yes, exactly. And my father's best friend was the cook. So he cooked the freaking potatoes.
Wow, that's really something. I mean, gosh, it just shows you how traumatic and how hard life was even at that point, where the people who were running the camp were like, hey, we need the extra potato. That is so awful. All right, well, look, not to be the podcast that brings everything around to AI and artificial intelligence, but I'd like to bring this around to artificial intelligence. You sort of touched on this at the top of the show, but as an expert in intimacy and human connection, where do you see us heading as a species when everybody can have soon we'll have a bespoke AI in our pocket or even attached to our brain that just wants to make us happy? One of my worries is that as a society, we already polarize so easily, in part because nobody wants to challenge their beliefs, nobody wants to be uncomfortable. I think it's probably going to get a hell of a lot worse when we don't have to, you think leaving the cap off the toothpaste? Fine, just instead have an AI partner that confirms whatever we want to hear, or you know, my wife doesn't just tell me everything I want to hear, as you might imagine, and I'm worried that we're going to go even further down the tubes socially.
So I have two associations to this. You know, the first is I think I'm very interested in the rise of the other AI. And I call it artificial intimacy.
Clever. Hijack that buzzword. I love it.
This is where we are going. And interestingly, this thinking started for me when somebody created an AI bot of me. Guy broke up with his girlfriend, couldn't get a session with me, and basically decided to create me. And he finds me very useful. He texts me all the time. The AI is there. And it's exactly that, what you just said. She's pure, she's always available, she never forgets anything, her personal life never enters into the picture. It's, anything fantastic that has nothing to do with the reality of relationships. So then I began to think, what's going on with this AI piece is that, and this is probably where there's a big distinction between relational issues or problems or challenges and the world of technology altogether, which is that most relationship issues are not things that you solve with binaries, zeros and ones. What you should do with your kids, what should you put grandma in a nursing home? Should that come and live with you? I mean, those are not right and wrong things. Those are complex problems that you have to hold contradictions. Technology doesn't like that. Technology operates on everything is a yes or no. We simplify the problem to the point where we can have a clear answer. And that clear answer leaves you without a single doubt. You have Netflix, you have Waze, you have Spotify, you have, if you're single, you have your dating app. So you have what to watch, where to go, what to wear, what to eat. You are surrounded with predictive technologies that are meant to give you an immediate answer without a single doubt, and that are producing people that are more and more anxious because they can't deal with uncertainty, with doubt, with the unpredictabilities of life. You would think that all these predictive technologies will make us more confident, but in fact they are making us more and more anxious. And then we talk about a mental health crisis and we don't connect the dots. That's what brought me to be interested in AI. And I'm in one space after another that talks about AI, but wants one person who talks about the effect of AI on relationships. Not our expectations of the machines, but what this will do to our expectations of people. When people go to machine therapy, this guy, by the way, he's very satisfied with me on the AI. He thinks he's giving him very good therapy, but what we know from the research is that he thinks it's very good because his expectations from technology are lesser than his expectations from people.
Oh, interesting. It probably is also telling him largely what he wants to hear, right? Because that's kind of what AI does.
It regurgitates a summary of everything I've said. My podcast is public knowledge, so you get transcripts. But a good session is not a regurgitation of everything I've said before. A good session is me picking up on you, Jordan, the specificity of you in that situation with your kids, your friends, whoever, and I come up with something that is tailored for you. I'm not just summing up, the sum total of what I've said everywhere else. That's what makes it meaningful and relevant to you, and that's what strengthens our relationship. So that doesn't mean that there's not a lot of good use to be done with telehealth and with bots. They will help you on symptoms, but the majority of us don't deal with symptoms. The majority of us deal with existential questions.
We're joking about never having to unload the dishwasher again or something, but then here's an AI that spends all day telling you how great you are and has absolutely no emotional needs of its own. I do expect people to be in sort of weird parasocial relationships with AI eventually, but I also worry that as the curve of technological development goes up, the curve of personal development goes down. And I don't mean